Peters, is he here? Reverend Peters?
I don't see him.
Okay. And so I'll do the invocation, and Mr. Pickens will do the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'd stand and bow your head, please. Lord, thank you for this opportunity that we get to come in here and freely speak our minds, do the things that a lot of other countries do not get to do, Lord. And we just thank you so much for blessing this country. Thank you for blessing our county. Even with all this rain, Lord, I know you have a purpose for all this rain, and we're just enjoying all the water that goes down into the aquifer and helps us to have fresh drinking water. With that said, Lord, we ask you to bless this meeting, be with us, and we ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Please join in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Has everyone had a chance to look at the minutes?
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of the minutes of July 24th, 2018 regular meetings.
Okay, we have a proper first.
I'll second.
Okay, with proper second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, so moves. And at this time, we're going to have Mr. Press come up front. And what we have is a retirement recognition for Ronald Blackshear and Jim Curry.
Thank you, Commissioner. I appreciate that. We got two gentlemen that are retiring from the Road and Bridge Department. Ronald Blackshear, been with us 16 and a half years. Jim Curry's been with us 27 and a half years.
Wow.
And both these guys are going to be sorely missed, I can tell you that. Ron is one of our boom mower operators, so y'all know how bad we need boom mowers right now. So we're sorry to see him go. And Mr. Curry, right here, he's a jack of all trades. He does a little bit of everything for us, but he is our expert concrete person. So he, again, is going to be very sorely missed, too. And we just want to say we appreciate the service they've given to the county and wish them luck in their retirement life. Mr. Suggs, I don't know if you want to add anything to that or not.
Absolutely. This is a great opportunity for us to recognize two great public work employees who have done an outstanding job for Putnam County, for the Board of County Commissioners, but most importantly for our citizens here in Putnam County. You're going to be very difficult to replace, and we are certainly wishing you both nothing but great success and happiness in your next endeavor. And don't forget us here at Putnam County. Come back and visit us, please.
That's right.
Mr. Ron, we've got a plaque to present to you for your service.
Thank you.
And Mr. Curry, we got a plaque for you. That's just a small token of our appreciation of what y'all have done for the county.
You want to stay up here? Or do you want to come down? Okay.
We got plenty of room up here.
Can I stand in the front? I thought that's frowned upon in this small community. Yes, sir.
I'll have to get you a little stool.
Oh, okay. All right, while everybody sits down, we are going to actually recess our county commission meeting, and then we're going to call to order our solid waste collection disposal meeting.
Yep, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, if we could go ahead and recess for 5 minutes. That's I advertised for 9:10.
We'll recess for 5 minutes.
Thank you. Disposal.
Okay, we'll reconvene our solid waste collection meeting. Has anyone had a chance to look at the minutes?
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of the minutes of July 24th.
Okay, we have a proper first. Proper second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Okay, we got a review for our certified special assessment role. Do we have any comments on this?
Good job by staff. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Okay. All right. So I guess we'll move to our appeal of decision.
No, we got to make a motion.
Oh, that's right.
Mr. Chairman, I motion to accept and approve the special waste assessment role for the implementation 2018-19 solid waste
I'll
resolution.
second it.
Okay, we have a proper first, a proper second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. We'll move to
Is that
our-
unanimous?
We did what?
Is that unanimous?
Unanimous.
Yes,
Yeah.
unanimous. Keep us on track. Okay, so what we have here is the appeal of decision of the Solid Waste Committee for the applicant Sharon Longy.
Mr. Chairman, before we get into that, Ms. Amanda Gabriel has some updated information on that request.
Okay?
Ms. Longy sent me an email this morning at 8:09 asking to either reschedule or start her process completely over. She was originally scheduled for the July 24th meeting and had to reschedule due to being out of town. And this morning, she states that she's sick and will not be able to come in. But it is at your decision whether you'd like to continue or to reschedule or start over. If you choose to reschedule, it would mean calling a special meeting of the district because we do not have any scheduled meetings until next year.
Okay.
Chairman, if I could, I'd
Yes,
like to
sir.
hear council, if you could weigh in on that ramifications of delaying this and what Mrs. Gabrielle just shared with us.
Well, it would mean that the assessment would stay for the current tax year if it's continued.
I see. Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
based on that, Mr. Manning, wouldn't you say that then it would pretty much be denied if it's going to stay on there till, at that point? So
Yes.
if we postpone it today, it's almost a denied decision and, yeah. Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
would we need council to go through that procedure with a full motion of denial? That's not our point here. I hate to do that, but I know that
Well, no.
we're statutorily, we're bound by this language.
Right. There's nothing stopping you from having the hearing and considering the facts of the case. At least that way you're actually taking a look at it. Whereas if you don't, if you continue it, it's just an automatic. There's no action to be
So if we were to
taken.
do that, it would, next year, it would be standing?
She could appeal next year as well if she desired, but yes, if it's on her assessment according to the property appraiser next year, then she could appeal again.
I guess what I'm trying to say, this work would be behind us if we make a decision today affecting the status of this property.
Yes.
But what do you think, commissioners?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
if I'm correct, this is one of the individuals that brought their appeal to the Solid Waste Adjustment Committee, and they were denied, and the reason they were denied was because it was in direct conflict with the way our ordinance reads, which states that if there's an accessible property, you cannot suspend their solid waste adjustments or assessment. So, personally, I feel like that she's had her due course by going, and she's had 2 opportunities to have due course again. By this, I don't see how today that I can vote to continue this appeal until next year when I don't think it would change no matter how many times she came before it. We heard this exact thing pretty much last month in an appeal. And it's not like we don't want to do it or whatever. We can't do it because of the way the ordinance is written. Wouldn't you concur with that, Mr. Manning?
Yes, sir.
And so with that being the case, I think we're just gonna have to deny this and move forward. That's just my opinion.
Okay, you're gonna make that in a motion?
Yes, sir. So moved.
Second.
All right.
I
So we
second.
have a proper first and a proper second to deny this request. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
You want discussion? Yes, sir.
I think if we're gonna go through the steps of denying it,
Mr. Mayor,
I think if we're gonna go through the steps of denying it, for the sake of the record, we might as well go ahead with the hearing so that the facts are presented, so that there doesn't create any additional appealable issues out there. Because you can continue on with the hearing in her absence, and that way at least the facts are presented and the agency as a whole has an opportunity to hear everything.
Yes, sir. I think that's a very good point. And Mr. Chairman, I think with that being said, I totally agree, and I withdraw my motion if my second will withdraw.
I will.
Okay, all right. Motion is withdrawn, and who wants to do the presentation? Is that you, Mr. Manning?
Mr. Brown, no, not Mr. Brown.
You're more familiar with the facts.
We'll let Miss Amanda go through the process, if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Ms. Lungi submitted an application to the Solid Waste Adjustment Committee requesting a refund. It has already been paid. She'd like to have the refund of what she paid on it, citing the second home on her property is an unoccupied guest cottage. In the agenda, there are packets showing both properties or both homes on the property. There was power connected to both properties, and she did include a light bill with her application showing a low usage to indicate that the property was unoccupied. On April 18th, it went to the Solid Waste Adjustment Committee where it was denied because the ordinance states that any residentially improved structure is accessible for solid waste. She was sent a copy of the decision on May 1st, as she was not present at the meeting. The same day, we received an email confirming that she received it. These were sent certified to make sure that she was aware of the decisions and the appeal process. She email corresponded back and forth requesting her appeal. We scheduled her for July 24th. We received a letter or an email from her requesting a postponement because she would be out of town. We agreed with it. We postponed her until this day, and she had another certified letter sent out. As of the agenda date, that letter had not been picked up, but judging by the email this morning, she was aware of this being the date for the next hearing.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Amanda, and I appreciate that. I think it's very important for us to, number one, the Solid Waste Committee voted in favor of, it says the committee found the property is legally accessible according to the Solid Waste Collection and Disposable Ordinance. But if we look at the ordinance and we look at the spirit of it, it brings everybody into the system where the prices can remain low. And by pulling people out just because they have a guest cottage that doesn't produce maybe what they want it to produce, I have a guest place that doesn't produce what it should be producing, and it doesn't. But I still pay the assessment on it because it has the ability to produce. And I think that's what we're looking at today is the greater good of the whole solid waste district is to keep our rates down. And by keeping these in here because of the ordinance, the way the ordinance is written, it helps all the citizens of Putnam County and not just a few. So that's my remarks, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Any other discussion?
If I could just chime in. Again, the ordinance does state, and that's ordinance section 3441, that the special assessment is to be imposed against all owners of all residential units which are deemed by the county property appraiser as being accessible, regardless of whether such property is occupied.
That's right. Correct.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I move that we uphold the decision of the Solid Waste Adjustment Committee and deny this appeal.
I second it.
So we have a proper
As this is a
first.
public hearing, I would ask that you open it up to any other interested parties and to weigh in.
Okay. So let me go ahead and hold on your motion. Okay, and now I'll open up now for any public comment for or against this action. Okay, seeing none, I'll close that.
Are we ready now?
Thank you.
Everybody, are
Set.
we ready now? Are we sure we're ready now?
I'm ready.
Mr.
We have a
Chairman,
proper
so,
first.
so moved again.
Okay.
Second again.
So we have a proper first and a proper second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, it is unanimous. Any discussion?
It's over with now.
Okay.
It's over.
Okay, so seeing that is the end of our solid waste. Yep, that is the end of it. So we will now adjourn from our solid waste and we will reconvene.
Give them a few minutes to walk in.
See you, mayors.
We'll reconvene in 2 minutes.
There you go.
Our
Pretty good there, aren't I?
Yes, sir. We're going to have a presentation by Carr, Riggs, and Ingram. Good morning.
Thank you for having us here this morning. I'm Tina Robinson with Carr, Riggs, and Ingram of State Road 19 in Palatka, and I did also want to mention that with me today is our the other partner in our office, John Rowe, and also our audit manager, Amy Miller, who is the manager on this engagement. So we appreciate, again, the opportunity to be here and present the results of your audit for the fiscal year ending September 30, 2017. Let me not go back to 1900s. So near the front of the book, I don't know if you have it, but I will mention some pages, and in case you do have it, it's not necessary for you to. But on the Roman numeral pages 1 through 3 is our auditor's report, and at the top of Roman numeral page 2, you'll actually see our opinion paragraph where we state that your financial statements are fairly stated in all material respects. Also, at the bottom of that same page, Roman numeral 2, we talk about the supplementary information, which is everything that's not major. So you'll have all your combining schedules and your schedule awards of grant awards. And on those, again, you have, those are fairly stated in relation to the basic financial statements. And then I would go back to the summary of your audit, which is on page 146 if you're looking at the white cover CRI book, or if you have the CAFR that was produced by your department here, that's in the C section, C series. But anyway, that page gives you a summary of your audit results again, and it's easy there to see in Roman numeral 1 through 3 that's related to the financial statements to say again that all your opinion units, which would be your governmental activities, business activities, you had 5 major funds this year, and then the aggregate non-major. Each of those we have to audit separately, so you don't really have just one audited opinion. All of those received clean opinions. There were no material weaknesses found, but we did note that there were 2 internal control deficiencies that we pointed out. One related to fleet in the physical inventory process should be improved. to make that more reliable. And then also we're recommending that your IT controls, that you do a risk assessment as part of your strategic plan. We did not find any matters that were related to the financial statements that were non-compliance. And then also on that same page, Roman numeral 4 through 6 is with regard to your grant, or single audits, federal and state single audit of your grants. And here again, you received unmodified or clean opinions on those. There were 4 major programs and projects. So for federal, you had 1 major, and for state, there were 3 certain criteria that makes those come up as major that we have to do additional procedures on. All of those, again, had the clean opinion. However, for one of the state projects, which is the State Housing Initiatives Program, we did note a noncompliance for not filing the state annual report timely. And then a few other significant points that I'll note is that your budget for each of the governmental funds were all within what you approved. On page 2, you'll see your financial results. In the governmental activities, the county decreased your net position equity by $2.2 million, ending with total equity of $105 million. And one thing to note about that is that does include $113 million of net investment in capital assets. So the vast majority of that, and actually, beyond your total equity, is invested in capital assets. For business type activities, those are all your proprietary type funds. The county decreased your equity by $4.5 million, meaning basically you used up some of your opening equity, but ending with a positive equity of $38 million at year end. And again, the majority of that is invested in capital assets, $35 million. For significant capital additions for the year, the county, the vast majority of that was road improvements, whether that was paving or some other type of resurfacing, road projects. You also renovated the emergency communications system and purchased 3 public safety vehicles and 3 excavators during that year. For long-term debt activity, the county took out capital leases to purchase a new phone system and the new excavators. Then as far as our other reporting, those begin on page 137 of the white cover book or in the C series of the CAFR. Among other areas that we're required to report on here, there's a letter called a management letter, which the Florida Auditor General requires us to prepare and report on certain areas, one of which is to apply financial condition procedures and determine whether or not we see, as defined in the statutes, whether the county meets financial emergency or deteriorating financial condition. And we saw neither, that the county does not meet those, does not fall into either of those categories, so that's good. And then additionally, I would note that based on your 2017 expenditures, if you look at the available general fund balances, which would be your assigned and unassigned, right now, or not right now, but as of 9/30/17, you had about 1.3 months worth of funding to cover the next year's expenditures. GFOA does recommend 2 months, so that's something you could work towards. And then this same management letter states that your annual financial report, which is referred to as an AFR, that was filed with the State Department of Financial Services, is in agreement with these audited financial statements. We have a couple of other reports that are required by statute for us to look at your compliance with investment statutes, the 218-415, and also look at the E911 statutes, the 365 chapter. And for both of those, we found no noncompliance. And then finally, aside from your audit, you also received a separate letter of communications from us, which were required to It doesn't have to be in writing, but we do, but it's required to communicate to you certain things, such as, again, reiterating our responsibilities, what the scope of the audit is, your responsibilities in establishing and maintaining internal controls, and your oversight responsibilities. So that's my summary, and if you have any questions, we'll be glad to answer those.
Any
Have
questions?
none today. Good news this year.
That's right.
Good.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. It was a very good report.
Thank you, Tina.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
before Ms. Robinson leaves the podium, I would like to make a few comments as it relates to the audit, but also as it relates to the financial health of our county. As she reported that these audit numbers are from the end of September in 2017. In 2017, we were still feeling the effects of a prolonged recession. And so some of those numbers that she talked about with, available balances at the end to cover a certain period of time in case there's an emergency, that ours was 1.3 months, it should be 2, that's the recommended. I will tell you that currently that we are in a much better shape because we have worked our way through this process by a lot of good, hard work on a lot of folks. A big majority of that is those managers that you have sitting in the audience that have worked to recognize that the financial health and well-being of our county government is paramount to our success. And so as we now start to prepare to work on our audit for the end of this September, and you get your report next year at this time, I expect these numbers to be much improved. And I want to congratulate you and your staff that have worked hard to do that. Sometimes when you hear the word audit, folks automatically get defensive, as I do sometimes, particularly when the Auditor General comes to town and does a audit. It's not a financial audit, it's more of an operational audit, because folks automatically will assume that there must be something amiss if you have an audit, okay? So, but what I have learned over years of being involved in audits and audit processes, this really is an opportunity to have someone independent look at it and find areas where you can do better. And so audit findings, the clerk has one on its collection of court fines that we don't meet the standard that's set by the state. There are reasons that our county doesn't meet those standards, and it has to do with demographics. There's nothing I can do about that. I can't change that. It is what it is. But I take it as an opportunity to remind us that we have to all work hard to continue to look at those issues that we have and do better. And so I want to thank Carl Riggs Ingram and particularly Ms. Robinson for their diligence and their work this year on behalf of this. And this is audit is an opportunity to celebrate and be proud of the work that's done. I also, since I'm talking and I won't have to talk later, but I did want to mention these as we remember John McCain this week as his passing, and that it's okay to disagree, but you disagree in professional processes, and that you try to limit your words so that those words aren't biting and harmful. But it's okay to disagree. And a couple of years ago, we had a lot of disagreement on this board. And I want to congratulate all of you on a atmosphere here that is much more conducive and productive to good government, to encourage and demonstrate to others that this community is a place that you want to live and work, and that those that are looking for some kind of economic expansion or industrial expansion know that this is a good community. We're seeing that in improved school numbers, And so I think this county is on the right path, and all of you should be congratulated, and the three of you that are up for reelection today, I wish you well in that today, and look forward to just great progress that this county is going to continue to have. And so thank you again, Ms. Robinson. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And again, thank you, staff. Everybody doesn't know the hours that they were beat up on their budgets in order for us to just get everything straight here, and the hours that they spent trying to get the paperwork together, and the hours that we've spent going over everything that they've done to approve it. But I thank everyone for helping us reach this point, and we are getting stronger. Any other comments?
Mr. Chairman, I'll take a moment if it's okay, not to prolong the meeting, but to echo some of the comments of the Honorable Tim Smith. You know, I think he's absolutely right. I think the numbers that we'll see in September 30th of this year will exceed what we heard here today, and what we heard here today was good. And I think that is a direct correlation of the commission working as well together as you five are, the vision of what you have, collective vision for this community and for this county. And I think the ability to communicate that vision and mission for this county to your administrative staff, so we can echo that message down through the department heads and the troops, so to speak. And I think it was a long process. You're right, Mr. Chairman. It was many hours going through the budget process. But let's don't forget that it was a year-long process to get us to that. Your staff has done an outstanding job understanding what we were trying to accomplish this year. So they started October 1 working with that vision, and they've carried it through to now. And I'm hoping that when we get through September 30th, that the work that they've done will be recognized, and that they will be applauded for what they've done, because it's all in behalf of U5 as well as the entire county of Putnam County and all our citizens. So they do deserve a round of applause, and I appreciate that very much, Mr. Smith, for pointing that out. Thank you.
Agree.
Okay. Well, let's give them that round of
That's
applause. Yeah, thank you, Ms. Robinson. At this time, I don't think we have any questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Will there be a motion for
Oh,
acceptance?
you're right.
Mr. Chairman,
Thank you for keeping us on track.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the financial annual audit by Cars, Ring, and Ingram.
Okay, I have a proper first
I'll second it.
and a proper second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, it is unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll now have public comment. We have the blue cards that we fill out. You don't have to fill them out, but we prefer that they're filled out and given to Miss Tony to speak. And so what we're trying to do is limit it to 3 minutes. Please speak your name and your address. And Mr. Earl Bellinger will be first.
Good morning. Earl Ballinger, 496 Clifton Road, Crescent City. Today I've got a few comments to make about our mowing operation. The weeds in the ditch in front of my property is over 6 foot high. It's so thick you cannot see through it. There's 3 people who live on my driveway, and every time one of us goes out, you have to ease out into the road to look around to see if a car's coming before you pull out. That's a safety hazard. It really is. I sent an email to the county right after the 4th of July stating this. And I got a reply back from Ms. Bray, I think it was, that she was out of the office and she'd return on maybe the 9th, whatever it was. I said, that's fine, no problem. So I waited a few days after her return time, and I called again. I called her. I didn't send another email. I called her. Voicemail. But what was bad was the voicemail box was full. I couldn't even leave a message. Then I called Mr. Tompkins' private number, left a message for him. A few days later, I called back up there again. Someone did answer the phone. And they said, yes, your name's on the list. They didn't tell me what list, but I was on the list. And they would have a supervisor call me back. That afternoon, a supervisor did call me back. He said, we do have a boom mower available, but we don't have a driver. We're gonna have to borrow a driver from another area, and it's gonna take 2 to 3 weeks to get him here. Well, that time's about up. But that has brought up several other questions to my mind. This year, we spent thousands of dollars on new equipment to mow the shoulders with. Did they take manpower, existing manpower, to put them into these mowers? I don't know. But then another idea, this morning we had 2 people to retire. Why not hire them back as contractors? Let them drive that boom mower. I mean, the whole road is pretty bad, especially the dirt part of it. But it is a safety hazard down there in front of my property. Thank you.
Mr. Earl,
Thank you.
Mr. Earl, before you leave, I have sent a number of emails, or a couple emails to Press, and Press, you got one this morning, or last night, about that, about the roads, the ditches, so hopefully they'll be able to, to take care of it soon. And that is correct. We do have a boom mower down here, but we've got one boom mower operator, so they're looking for somebody. If you know anybody that's interested in a job, aren't you looking for a boom mower operator, Press? So, and those things are tough to overcome. I understand your frustrations, but also, you got to have people to operate the equipment, and they're looking for somebody, so. But they're aware of the ditches in front of Mary Stevens' house, all the way, the whole ditches from all of Clifton Road.
Yeah, well, we share a driveway and a ditch, so
Right.
that's both of us.
So,
A
but
few
he's
years
definitely
ago,
aware of
I
it.
would have gone out there as a weed eater and taken care of it myself, but I am not physically able today. That's the bottom line. So, if you get the prisoners out there, that'd work. Or the boom mower, but it's been a year since anybody's out there to mow those
Right.
ditches.
You're correct. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next would be Mary Munson.
Mr. Chairman, while she's moving up here, I would just like to make the comment that what's happening in Mr. Ballinger's house is not uncommon to what's happening in each of our districts as far as the roads or the ditches needing it
This is
very
Kathy Munson. My name
badly.
is Marcia Fryer.
Just a second. Go ahead there, Mr. Turner.
That's fine, let her go ahead. I pretty much said what I wanted to. It's just not uncommon. What's going on is not uncommon for all of us right now because of the shortage of people at Public Works. We don't have enough people to run the equipment that we have, but he's trying hard, I think, to get them filled, so.
Yes, sir. Okay, now I know both these people, so. Marcia Fryer, she had a card, and Mary Munson. I guess you're gonna, she put Mary down.
Oh, you put Mary? Oh, it's Mary Catherine.
That's
She's
right.
being formal. Her name is Kathy.
Yes, or Miss
I-
Munson.
I don't speak well. I'm not a speaker. I don't stand up in front of people.
Before
But
you go, I do need
these
your
other
name.
people,
Before you get going, I need name and address.
Marcia
both of you.
Fryer, 105 Pecan Grove Road, Palaca, Florida.
Thank you, and Miss Munson?
Kathy Munson, 475 Stokes Landing Road, Palatka.
Thanks. Okay, go ahead.
You got me today because other people act like they got to work.
Yeah,
I don't know.
shameful.
But anyway, I'm here about the ditches and the roadways and culverts, and I got a big problem at my house too, just like that gentleman. But I've got pictures and I've got signatures and petitions of the people in my neighborhood, just around my little corner of the county. And I wanted to pass those out. I brought pictures of everything, what it looks like. Her.
Yes, they have to go to her.
They're all the same thing. There's 5 of them, one for each of you. I did put in a few solutions that we had.
I'll share with him so you can keep one.
It is my understanding where I talked to Mr. Goddard earlier that y'all may be headed my direction. Another solution for this problem is state prisoners. If you don't have enough employees, I don't know all the ins and outs of that, but I'm looking for what you got to suggest.
Okay. Well, I'm going to have, after the next presentation, after I finish with all the presentations, I'm going to have Mr. Tompkins with Public Works come up and address it.
Okay,
So, is there anything else?
all for me. Thank you.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. Okay. Ms. Richardson? Okay, do you forfeit your blue card?
Wave and support.
Waive.
Yeah.
Okay, waive and support. Okay.
Ask her to hold on and carry a microphone to her.
We'll carry a microphone to you.
There's one right up there.
We got
Is
it.
that one live?
We got it.
Okay.
And I need you to give your name and your address, please. Yes, ma'am. Okay. Is there any other public comment on on anything, but any other public comment? Okay. Mr. Tompkins, if you could come forward. Yeah, I'm gonna have him, because we have been battling this weather and roads, and now ditches, and now grass. So if you,
It's a never-ending cycle, unfortunately, and I will agree. We have gotten behind due to the weather. We do have 3 inmate crews for the whole county. With our shortage of staff right now, I think we're down approximately 12 to 14 people. We are looking as hard as we can to hire people. We have very few applicants that come in. I'll be very candid with this board with our pay schedule. It's very difficult to get people to work right now with the economy picking up. We're doing the best we can with the people we have. We are shifting operators around from pieces of equipment. I've got the gentleman that runs the vac truck. He also runs one of our grade alls, so I've got to switch him back and forth. We do try to clean the ditches as much as we can. We have the boom mowers running. I have 2 tractors down now due to mechanical problems. They're scheduled to be out this week, so that'll give us, but the 15-foot batwing mowers we bought have increased our productivity tremendously. I think Mr. Pickens in his area, he's seen a pretty good increase in the mowing capability we have. I know Commissioner Harvey, we have one up in your area that's going. So, we're doing that. We are cleaning ditches as much as we can. We use the inmate crews to help supplement some of our crews. We do have them on the small zero-turn mowers as soon as we can. They try to do ahead of our mowers to pick up trash, but unfortunately we haven't been able to do that because we've had to utilize their services. And I'll be honest with you, the inmate crews, yesterday they knocked off at noon. One day last week, I only had 2 inmate crews. One of the inmate guards called in sick, so we didn't get a crew that day. That's hit or miss with them sometimes. But I'm trying to utilize every bit of people we have to get to, and I understand the residents' concern. I drive these roads every day. I look at what needs to be done. I get with my area supervisors to try to get things going. I talked to Commissioner Goddard this morning. We have a mower coming in to do Silver Lake and Espinal and those roads too, to hit those areas. But the way the weather is, I can mow it, and 3 weeks later, it looks like we never hit it. Now, we are looking at trying to do some herbicide spraying to try to cut down our mowing frequency. I've got several boys that are going to the herbicide school, I think in October, to get their license to do that. That will help us on some of our mowing operations. But I know it's, I'm not trying to give excuses. I'm just trying to say, with the people we have, these boys are working as hard as they can to get things done. We've got culverts to be cleaned. This rain has brought out every weakness we have in our drainage system. Our drainage system is 30, 40, 50 years old. And it is decaying, and we have experienced a lot of that. I know the commission here has approved a lot of drainage work here recently. We just finished Georgetown, Denver. That should be open to traffic today. That was 60-inch culverts that had to be replaced that were completely gone. If we hadn't replaced them, that road would have been closed indefinitely. This is the type of situation that we're looking into. A lot of our pipes are metal pipes. They're rusted out completely. And it takes time and money to do it. I mean, for me to replace the culvert, I have to have 2 people for maintenance of traffic to divert the traffic from one side to the other. I have to have a grade haul, a dump truck, and 3 or 4 laborers to do one culvert replacement. So that's the whole labor crew right there. And some of these people I have to do on labor crews are the same ones that have to do some of the mowing and some of the other equipment operators. So we're doing everything we can with the people we have. I'm not trying to make excuses, but I will tell you, we are working as hard as we can.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
If I could, for Mr. Tompkins. Mr. Tompkins, is it feasible that we could hire some outside contractors to catch up where we have deficiencies at this time?
That would have to be a budgetary question. I don't know if they're available, but we would certainly look into that.
Commissioners, I think that we're at this point. There's some safety issues. I'm hearing it, seeing it on social media. And I'm going to be the first to say, what's it take to become a mower for the county? I want to be a part-time mower.
I'll be glad to put you to work out there. All you do is
I can
come-
drive the heck out of a 15-foot bat mower. I'm serious.
It's not as easy as it looks.
I'm going to see you today at the workshop, and I'm very serious. I'll step
I
up,
think
whatever it takes to get this
Commissioner
thing
Turner
caught
had
up.
the same thought about that, but
You going to do it, Terry?
Absolutely.
I'll do
Let's
it.
get on.
There's
I'm
not,
serious.
if I may, there's not a piece of equipment he doesn't have that I haven't run in my private life many, many, many times.
Well, I can't claim that, but
Except
I
for
could
the-
run a mower.
Except for the spider. I've never run a spider before.
That would be fun, though.
But I don't need it
now,
to be
I
fun.
will say this, I'm gonna make sure that Barbara Shepherd, that insurance-wise, that it's okay for you to do that, because I'm not gonna sit there and agree to it. If
Well, I'm not, this is not any kind of ploy or whatever, but we're behind. We need to catch
Yes, we
up.
are.
And I will. I do a 15-foot mower, as you well know, all the time. Be glad to do it for you, sir.
we can use all the help we can get right now, but like I said, we're doing everything we can.
But it's not just about the workers either. The tractors are not, they're breaking down too, correct? Or they need maintenance more?
They need maintenance, they need preventive maintenance.
Right.
and-
That's what's
and
happening now
that's
too.
wh- Yeah.
It's not that they're breaking down, they just need maintenance.
They need the maintenance, just like the mower decks. I mean, those blades need to be sharpened and changed. We have to bring them in for that. One of the things we have we have a mowing manager position. I have not been able to fill it, that I'd have one gentleman that would be in charge of all the mowers with a service truck that he could go around in the field, help service them, grease them up, change the blades on them, and keep them running. But that's one of the positions we've been trying to get filled. We actually substituted a crew leadership position as a mowing manager position. So, I mean, we're trying to get to the point to be more efficient. It's very difficult right now.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I support Commissioner Liebel's idea, and you know I love private contractors helping us out and actually doing more for the county. But I think it is time that we look at that. If you're 14 positions down, that means there's a whole line item budget number that's sitting there waiting to be used. And not that we want to spend money, but I'm just saying we need to get our money's worth for the citizens. And truly, I did drive around these past few months all over, and even last night everywhere. I didn't see a road in this county that did not need mowing. And no matter where I went, I saw it from South Putnam all the way out to West Putnam. So I think it's time we call in the cavalry and really knock this down. And when it becomes a 6-foot high weed on a road, that's dangerous, even 3-foot high weeds when you pull out. So, you know, but I do support that. And I think we need to you need to come up with a plan to produce to our administrator that he can bring to us that we can solve this problem.
We'll start working on that immediately.
Okay. Yes, sir, Mr. Turner.
Mr. Chairman, I also support this to some degree, but I think if we're going to start looking at this, it needs to be a plan that's kind of a hybrid plan. I don't think we just need to send everything in the county out to private contractors. I just don't think it's there. I think what we need to do is try to identify certain roads that would free up the county to do the collector roads and the county highways and the things that require the batwing mowers. Right now we have 6 zero-turn mowers, and they're basically ran by the prison crews. So if we get a prison crew 2 days a week instead of the 5, which happens quite frequently, then that just cuts down on the amount that they can operate. And also these crews, from the best I've been told, are going around and trimming on the roads that the batwings are on, in addition to trying to do some of the non-collector roads over on the side. So, you know, if we're gonna go this route, I think that what I would want to do is challenge Press or his mowing crew or whoever he's got in charge of this to try to identify some of those non-collector roads that they're trying to go hit, and it's making them stay behind on their main roads. I think that's the way we need to start looking at it and see how that works. And if the commission would be kind enough to remember that back when I tried to get the tractors for public works, the 2 tractors that I've been told has been a tremendous help to them, even though it hasn't completely solved the problem. It's been a tremendous help. I said at that time that I was willing to sit down and try to figure out a way to do it with a public non-public partnership, trying to identify ways to do this that's the best for the county. And I think we still need to have that discussion. That's why at the end of the last commission meeting, under commissioner comments, I asked that we have a presentation of the mowing and how the mowing was being done and how the schedule was being come up with, other than everything stays down in Mr. Pickens' district.
He's underwater right now.
Yeah, I know. But, if you want a mower for your district, you got to call down and see if Bill will let you have one. Sorry, Bill. But anyhow, I do want, lightheartedness aside, I still would like to request that we have a mowing presentation, and that maybe during that presentation we could come up with some of those ideas like we just discussed about perhaps us doing the county highways and the major collector roads, and identifying all these non-collector roads that we're mowing, and maybe we could come up with some kind of a way to put that out for an RFP or something, to where we could get some private help to come in at least for one pass and get us caught back up again. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
No problem. Press, is there any way that you could do a small presentation at our transportation today on those collector roads? Maybe a few ideas that you have. I know we've got a full boat. I'm not going to be there, but we're going to have a full boat of things on our transportation, and I think at that time.
Mr. Chairman, while I appreciate the haste that we need to go in this, I just don't think it's fair to ask him to come up in 3 hours with a presentation on the mowing thing.
Yeah, no, that's not what I was asking. I was going to say if you had a small idea, and we may end up having to have a special meeting, possibly.
I think you're right, sir. I think we need to put together a special workshop just on that issue by itself.
I can try to have some information for you at transportation, but I won't be able to give you a full thing.
Right, just a small synopsis of a few ideas that you have, and then we can decide on another meeting, because it's reached that point. I know I'm not the only one that bugs you to death over these things.
No,
You can order my uniform.
Mr. Chair.
And you know, it's not just that, Mr. Chairman, it's also the fact that, that we only mow with the bat wings and the zero turns or whatever we're using, we only mow to the ditch. We don't mow the actual ditch itself. And so we use the boom mowers to go and do that, and with the amount of boom mower, I think we haven't had more than 2 running at one time most of the summer, and most of the time I think it's been 1 running or maybe a second one somewhere else. One's either broke down or somebody's not there to run it or whatever the case may be. And so even if we go back to doing that, I think we're also gonna have to look at possibly some private help on doing some of the boom mowing in some of these ditches, because I just don't see how we can catch up at this moment before November. I mean, and that's just not acceptable. So I think if we could maybe look at that along with some of the non-collector roads, I think it may be beneficial. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Mr. Pickens?
Yeah, I do believe that this warrants a special meeting, workshop. But I think today we can at least start the conversation. I think we're all in agreement that we understand we're behind. You're behind with positions. It doesn't look like you're filling them well. So it's probably time to look at some outside help, but it's got to be, targeted to strategic areas of need, whether it's the ditches, the mowing, or whatever. But at least we can start the conversation today at the transportation meeting.
And I agree with that, and I've been talking about this with my area supervisors and my road superintendents. But I'd like to say one thing to the public. When you do call our office, every phone call is logged in. When you call about mowing on Silver Lake Drive, that automatically generates a service request to our area supervisors. It's not going ignored, but as I've said, the ladies in our office receive over 100 phone calls a day. We try to return phone calls, but it's almost impossible. I got my area supervisors out all day long. I think Commissioner Pickens, Commissioner Turner, y'all talk to my supervisor. They're out there every day looking at these problems as soon as we're made aware of them. But I want the public to know, when you do call in, it is logged in and a service request is made. When somebody says you're on the list, that means we already have a service request in for that road. We try to keep to a 2-week cycle. I sit down with the area supervisors and they give me a work list of what they predict to do the next 2 weeks. So I'm trying to get some systematic workload that we're getting things done, but we're somewhat reactionary right now due to the weather and due to the conditions. We have a lot of drainage complaints right now. We have a lot of dirt roads that we can grade today. It rains tonight, and it's like we've never been there. And I can't keep going back and grade the same dirt road every day because of the rain. We have approximately, we've got 900 miles of dirt road in this county. I got 550 miles of paved road that we're trying to maintain with a very small staff right now. And I'm not trying to use that as an excuse. I'm just telling you the facts of it. I need people. We need to get them on board. We get them trained. And we need to expand to get our staff going, that we can man these equipment and get it going. And Commissioner Turner's right. The extra 2 tractors were a tremendous help to us. When we got them running, I'll say this in Commissioner Pickens' area, we knocked out those roads probably 2 weeks earlier than we normally had with those 2. And I've got one of them pulling out of that area, going to Commissioner Goddard's area, and we have one up in Commissioner Liebel's and Larry Harvey's area are out there, should be mowing today. So.
Well, who do I have to bribe to get one in my area?
Got one in your area too. The one coming up from Mr. Pickens' area is headed to your area, so.
Mr. Chairman, if I could.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely great conversation here this morning. We know that we've got some issues to deal with. Again, I'll go back to this commission having the communicative skills that we're using here now. I think what we need to do is start working together, and I'll get with Mr. Tompkins and his area and staff, and we'll come up with some solutions on how to address these concerns. One thing is that you five pride yourself on is dialogue with our residents. We need to figure out a solution to that. If someone does call in, they need to be contacted back. And I understand the workload. Everybody, no pun intended, is underwater right now. But we still need to be able to communicate back and let people know they've been heard and that their concerns have been logged, and give them some sense of when we might be able to assist them. We'll work on that as well. I do believe that the new mowers has helped quite a bit. And yes, I believe Commissioner Turner, you push for those. You should at least get something in your area. But in all seriousness, this is a major issue countywide, and it's going to take all of us working together. And I'll get with Mr. Tompkins and his staff, and we'll figure out a solution to this and bring it back to you five for some more communication.
Mr.
Go ahead.
Chairman, Ms. Tompkins, driving the whole county like a lot of us have been doing recently. And I'm just going to go ahead and throw Barton Road into the mixture because I see Leota. I passed her on the road last night coming in. A lot of tractors out there, a lot of people. And Mr. Killebrew, sorry I left you out there, Mr. Killebrew. A lot of people out in Barton own a tractor. They own bush hogs. If there was some way we could partner with some of those residents to go out there like we're talking about, Commissioner Lible and I and Turner putting on an outfit and running out there. These guys know how to cut. They know better than probably anybody else does. And if we could partner with some of them to cut that area, that would really alleviate. You're talking floor home, you got Interlaken that could be cut by some people. It would help y'all out a lot right now. So I think when we have this meeting and when we do have this special meeting, I think throw everything on the table. Let's talk about it, because I think that would benefit the whole county when we look at helping getting our private citizens to help us out. And I'm sure Mr. Killebrew wants to cut grass too out there with his tractor. There you go. I knew you would. Okay.
Well, maybe we can come up with.
You might even see Leota jump on.
Well, we could, very similar to what DOT did, we could adopt a roadway program
Well-
that some of the private citizens could help us do some of the maintenance and litter pickup and stuff like that.
For right now, I think we need to.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr.
Mr. Turner.
Yes, I've talked about this before, but I think it's a perfect chance to mention it again. When you replace your mowing supervisor, hopefully you will be able to find somebody that has the ability to do some scheduling. What I would like to foresee, and we can bring this up more in the workshop about the mowing, but what I would like to see is I would like to see a list of vendors, just like you have a continuing service contract right now with some of your people that do paving or whatever for you. If we could get that same list of qualified vendors, then your mowing supervisor could go out and say, okay, we have a qualified vendor that can go down and do this area for X amount of dollars, and we've got another one that can go over here. I don't think the answer to this is to take it away from Public Works and give it to a vendor outside. Then we just have somebody that we can't do anything about except take the contract away from them. So I think what we need to do is have multiple vendors on a list, and that can go out, and you could call them up and say, do you have time to do this week? And if they say yes, then it's okay, well, you've already got your price from them on your continuing services contract. And so then they could go over and you could get somebody else to help you in another area. You wouldn't have to promise them so many passes. You wouldn't have to promise them anything other than we'll give you so much a mile or so much of whatever, however you decide to price it, and then go out and do that if you can. So it'd just be a matter of couldn't we afford to get enough done at one time in the budget, I mean. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
if I may, any kind of contracting you do with the private sector, and I'm a private sector believer, is going to have some dollar amount attached to that. That may be in the short term a way to try to encourage Mr. Thompson to get folks working for him is bump the pay up. You're going to take that same money and pay it a contractor, or you could turn around and put it and say, mowers are going to be $5 more an hour than what everybody else is, and get some mowers hired, and they're trained, and they work with you and stay with you. That's the problem.
Yes, sir.
Is because the economy's good and people can go make, you know, $15, $16, $17, $18 an hour doing just about anything. And the long-term solution is to pay employees that are loyal to you and they're trained and they know what they're doing. Thank
Yes, sir. Yeah, Mr. Tompkins and I have discussed this one quite a lot, yeah, and we're working on it. Okay, any other comment?
I do agree with Commissioner Turner that our continuing services contract have worked very well for the county. And I can get with Melissa and Dylan and see if we can put out an RFP and try to start getting this information together. See if we do have some local vendors that would be willing to bid on like a per unit, per mile type basis, just to help us fill in when we do need it. But those type of contracts have been very beneficial to the county.
Well, I think, before we do that, I think that it definitely needs to be workshopped before then.
Absolutely.
And I'm willing to do it as soon as the other commissioners can fit it in, because I think it's that important. And excuse me, if we drag it out 3 weeks, we're gonna be another 3 weeks from the end of the growing season, and we can catch up at that point, and we won't be an issue until next year. So I think what we have to do right now is to try and come up with a way to rectify this to where it's not an issue next year. And during August, when we're having 20 inches of rain in the last 2 months like we've had now, and we're getting rains every day, sometimes as early as 11 o'clock, that knocks us off from being able to do this, we could use continuing contracts to go forward. You know, I think it was Commissioner Lible, or I think maybe brought up the deal a minute ago. If we're 14 people short, then we have 14 people's paychecks, you know, that they're not paying at the moment. You know, it may be that one of the things perhaps we need to do is look at an overall structure of your department. I know that in my business, I would rather have a certified mechanic than I would a laborer if it came to than the two laborers. So maybe what we need to do is take the paycheck from two laborers and put it into someone that has the ability to do something, and they get more done than the two laborers do. So there's more than one way to skin this cat. But I think we do need to look at it. I think Mr. Smith hit the nail on the head, because you know that I've been talking to you about the same issue for a month now. So I think he's absolutely correct. It's a pay issue. It's also that it's very difficult to hire anybody. That's also a big issue here on the street, because everything out there's booming so hard. I don't know that we'll ever be able to get to what, for instance, a tractor driver, or especially a excavator operator, or a grade all operator, or a motor grader operator. I don't know that the county will ever be able to get to the level that a site contractor will pay these people out on the street in a booming economy. But usually they don't have full-time insurance either. And so what we've got to do is find the people that care about having the full-time insurance and the full package, instead of just how much am I going to get in my paycheck on Friday, which some people think that also. So, you know, I think we need to look at the overall picture while we're looking at this, and not perhaps just the mowing portion, but to see if maybe you wanted to take this opportunity to possibly restructure and have more of the better paid people, and maybe not as many of the overall, that knowing that you can't fill them at $9 an hour. Maybe you could take that pay and move it around to where you have more $14 an hour people and just less people. I mean, that's just something that you'd have to decide.
Ironically, we have been looking at that and discussing that internally to see what we could do to try to help us get to where we need to be.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
One last thing, I always have to throw MSBU's in there.
Yes,
We
sir.
already have those contracts available. We know how much they charge per mowing per mile in those MSBU contracts. So I would say, as Commissioner Turner's thoughts are, move on to maybe looking at that contract first and expanding those out, because you already got those and we already know those numbers. Now, we just have to see if they're interested in rebidding that, but that would be a good starting point to use those contracts that we currently have.
Yes, sir.
And one other thing, in order to utilize those contracts, we've got to find the money to pay for them.
Right.
Because right now, in this current budget year, there's not a lot of extra money to do this. And while we need to do this, and it's a service we need to render to the public, we've got to try and identify a funding stream to be able to actually pay for it. So it's not like, oh yeah, we don't want it, everybody up here wants it, I guarantee you. But we've got to be able to find that funding stream and stay within our budgetary constraints for this year, just saying.
Yes, yes, sir. I can see we're gonna have to have a very good meeting
think
on
we're
this. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and close this up. Is there any other comment real quick before I close?
Thank you all
Okay,
very much.
Mr. Tompkins.
Thank you, Chris.
Okay, any other public comment? Yes, ma'am. Please state your name and your address at the microphone.
Good morning. My name is Maddie Langlois, 136 West St. John's Terrace, East Palatka, Florida. Just an idea for you guys to consider. How about talking to private citizens about their roads and offering tax incentives to maybe help them a little bit in these tough times and get your mission accomplished as well?
Okay.
And maybe take a look at stopping the graphics on these police cars. That is going to cost about $5,000 in the overall. Because if we don't have enough money to pay for this with the county to get these roads fixed, how can we afford to pay for these graphics on police cars just to make them look pretty? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other public comment? Any other public comment? Seeing none, I'm going to close this portion, and we'll move to our consent agenda. I'm going to start with Mr. Lible.
I have nothing today. It all looks in order.
Okay, Mr. Pickens?
I have none.
Mr. Turner?
I have none.
And Mr. Harvey?
I have none, sir.
Okay, and I have none.
All right, seeing that, Mr. Chairman, I move approval of consent agenda items A through J.
Second.
All right, so we have a proper first, a proper second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that moves unanimously. Okay, we move to number 10. Okay, I remember reading this before. And,
Wait a minute.
Okay.
agreement of the implementation of the rural area opportunity designation. Who's going to present?
The administration can take that, Mr. Chair. Mr. Reynolds has done the legwork on this. This is a memorandum of agreement to designate the rural area of opportunity designation. What this is an agreement between the county and DEO. We need to designate a staff person as well as the economic development individual, I believe, on there. And I don't believe there's anything else, no costs associated with it other than some training, if that's correct, Mr. Reynolds?
No, that is correct. This is for the North Central Florida Rural Area of Opportunity. I believe there's 12 or 13 different counties that would be a part of that, and they need each county to execute this memorandum of agreement in support of the governor's reestablishment for another 5 years of these designations. And as Mr. Suggs mentioned, we will need an appointment of one elected or appointed official to be the point of contact for the county, and then one person from a nonprofit organization that serves in an economic development type role under this agreement. And so I believe administration's thought process for that position would be the vice president of economic development for the chamber, since they are already performing that for the county.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Reynolds, does this replace the current RAO that's going on right now that represents Putnam County, or is this in addition to the?
It reestablishes it.
Okay.
Within this agenda item, there was an attachment of I believe it was an executive order that Governor Scott signed reapproving this program, this Rural Area of Opportunity program, for another 5 years through 2023.
Okay. Now, currently, is that Jeff Henry that does that for the county on the nonprofit, on the nonprofit side?
Yes, I believe that's who forwarded us this information. Okay. He also assists the county in that same manner, the economic development manner. So I believe he could also be another one that you could appoint as that economic development representative.
But we could also replace him and make Brian Bergen our vice chairman of that. Okay. That, I just wanted to make sure, because I attended that Rayo meeting down in Ocala. And, yeah, okay.
Mr. Hendry was there, I believe.
Yes, he was.
correct? Yeah.
Yeah, he was.
Okay. Any other comment?
Mr. Chairman, I normally don't do this, but I'd like to serve on that if the board sees fit, due to my position as the rural chair of the Rural Caucus Committee for the Association of Counties. I think it would just segue right into that for me, if the board's pleasure is that.
Well, yeah, it's not that, I don't think it's not the board's pleasure. I think with today's election, we might want to postpone that decision at least for a day. What's the thoughts on that?
Restate that if you would, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Well, Commissioner Harvey would like to volunteer for this position. But Commissioner Harvey is also up for re-election, which will be settled today. Today is election day.
Okay.
So if we were to appoint him and perhaps he didn't win re-election, then I'd say we have a situation.
Mr. Chairman, I think.
Yes, sir. I wanna
think
hear.
The only situation we may have, if that was to happen, would be we had to appoint somebody else.
Right.
Okay.
Whoever was left, and he's still gonna be here through November, no matter what happens today. So I feel confident enough, if he volunteers, personally, I feel confident enough that we can move this forward at this time.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. I just think I'd be amiss if I didn't bring that up.
I just felt like I
This
should
is exactly where it
say
is.
that I feel confident at this time. So with that being
Okay.
said, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
do we need public on this before a motion?
No, sir.
Okay. All right, Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the memorandum of agreement for implementation of rural area of opportunity designation. And I would like to recommend the appointment of Commissioner Harvey as the one person for a point of contact.
Okay, we have a proper.
That would be the elected appointed official. We also need one for the, one person from a nonprofit organization engaged in economic
Okay,
development.
well,
So
I would also at that point add to that motion that we appoint Brian Bergen as the nonprofit
Second.
appointment.
Okay. Who was the second?
Mr. Lible?
Commissioner Lible.
Okay, and Commissioner Lible. Okay, so we have a proper first and a proper second to appoint Larry Harvey as our elected official and Brian Bergen as our nonprofit organization representative. All right, all those in favor, say
I
aye.
have a question. Is this 1 year term? Is that what it is? How long?
it would be for as long as the agreement is in effect or until the board decided they wanted somebody different on there.
Okay. Okay, so, again, any other discussion? Nope. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Okay, all those not? Okay, so it's a unanimous. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, we will now move to Mr. Tim Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have no other items.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, we take a break for just a moment before we go to the next thing?
Okay, what we'll do is we'll take a 5-minute recess. All right, we'll reconvene. All right, we are moving to Mr. Mike Brown for the Planning and Development. Public
Mr. Chairman, before we begin, this is a quasi-judicial matter, so I would ask if any of you all have had any ex parte communications on this issue, and if so, are you still able to remain neutral and make your decision based upon what's heard here today? And then after that, I would ask the clerk to swear in any witnesses that are going to speak on this matter.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Turner?
I have had none, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Harvey?
I have had none concerning this issue, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Lible?
I have talked with Mr. Stillwell, but, counsel, only about the time and his need or not to be present here or not. That was the subject.
Okay, Mr. Pickens?
I've had none.
And I've had none on this subject whatsoever.
Thank you. Clerk?
I do.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Commission, Mike Brown, Putnam County Planning and Development Services. Case R18-008 is before you today. The applicants are Thomas and Barbara Stillwell, and their request is a zoning map change from agriculture to general commercial on 3 parcels totaling 0.81 acres located at 114 State Road 207 in East Palatka, more specifically on the southwest corner of State Road 207 and Bland Road. Here's an aerial depicting the 3 parcels and their general location. The future land use of 2 of the parcels, 2 smaller parcels, is urban service. The larger parcel has split future land use with commercial and urban service. The current zoning, as I indicated earlier, is agriculture, and the proposed zoning is C3, general commercial. Both the commercial future land use and the urban service future land use allow neighborhood and general commercial uses and zoning to be allowed within those future land use areas. And again, the proposed zoning to general commercial C3, the purpose as set forth in the Land Development Code is to provide general commercial zoning district of a mixture of light and medium intensity commercial uses that require immediate access to major and minor arterial roadways in the urban service and commercial future land use categories as adopted on the future land use map. In analyzing the request, staff finds that the future land use is urban service and commercial, and the proposed C3 zoning is consistent with both future land use designations. The subject parcels have frontage on 207, which is classified as a principal arterial, and the county has adopted level of service D for this facility. A review of the PM peak hour volume to capacity ratios for 207 indicate that it operates within the adopted level of service, and any new development proposed on the site would not result in exceedance of this adopted level of service. And again, during development review, that is one of the things staff looks at, is the specific use, the amount and intensity of that use, and how many trips will be generated, and check that to confirm that it will not exceed the level of service on 207. Also, the parcels contain no wetlands. The southwest corner is designated as a special flood hazard A, and consistent with both the comprehensive plan and the land development code. Any development within that specific area will need to be required to comply with floodplain management requirements. The proposed use is accessible to the intended market of service and does not require significant non-residential vehicular traffic to pass through established neighborhoods. Staff finds that the proposed rezoning to C3 is consistent with the comprehensive plan, consistent with the locational requirements of the C3 zoning district as set forth in the Land Development Code, and is compatible with the surrounding uses. The Planning Commission on its July 11th meeting unanimously recommended approval of the request for rezoning. Staff recommends approval of the request to amend the zoning map on the subject's 3 parcels totaling 0.81 acres from agriculture to commercial general. Are there any questions of staff at this point?
None at this time.
No. All right. Public. Is there any public comment for or against? Again, any public comment for or against this issue? Okay, we'll close that section.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Go right ahead, Commissioner.
Mr. Chairman, seeing none, I'd like to make a motion that we approve application R18-008 based on staff recommendations in our packet.
Second.
All right, so we have a proper first and a proper second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any discussion on it? Moves.
Thank you.
Okay, I think that's your only one.
That's it.
That is it. Thank you, Mr. Brown. All right, so now we can move to appointments.
Where would you like to start, with me?
We'll
Okay.
start with you.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, on the library board, I would like to appoint Victoria Rayfield of East Palatka. I have her contact information, so I'll give it to you after the meeting, as I know it's public record, but I'd just soon not read it off on television, so I'll give it to you after.
How was your name?
That was it. Victoria Rayfield, yes, for the library board,
R-A-Y?
District 3.
R-A-Y?
Yes, Rayfield, Rayfield.
Okay, thank you. All right,
And that's all I have for today, Mr. Chairman.
thank you, sir. Mr. Harvey.
Mr. Chairman, I do have a appointment on the library board, Ms. Heather Lee, who's in our audience today. You met her earlier, and she has agreed to serve, and she's from the Melrose area, so thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I think we also need at some point during this meeting to approve the city's selection for the library board. I believe we do, and it was submitted to us in our packet.
We did that on the consent
So it
agenda.
was on the consent
Yes, sir.
agenda?
It was.
Okay, sorry, Mr. Chairman.
That's all right. That was item C.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, before we leave that library board, I think we had, Amanda, we had some of the numbers mixed up based on the districts, how they were done before. Because Ms. Warren was in 5 and she's actually in 4, and I think today's appointments will clean that up, so, yep, okay.
Okay, Mr. Pickens.
Yeah, I also have an appointment for the library board, Miss Nancy Taylor from Crescent City.
Okay.
I do have a question on appointments. I know, and we may have taken care of this, but back when I believe it was the Value Adjustment Board was being put together, and the school board made their recommendation of their representative, it was gonna be,
Tom? Was it Tom?
it was gonna be the lady that's not running.
Oh, Kathy Jerkins.
Yeah, Miss Kathy Jorgensen, and so we went ahead and I think we accepted the nomination from the general public, a business owner, Judd Neufeld, but Sandy Gilliard is gonna be their representative. I didn't know if that had ever come back to the board for us to accept that or not. I mentioned it at our orientation meeting, and I don't know if that's been done yet.
Commissioner Pickens, if you'll give us just a couple minutes.
Sidebar going on over here. Can you dance? Can you sing or dance or anything? Fill the time.
Up to you.
The information that's being shared now is that when we appointed Ms. Jorgensen, we did Ms. Gilliard as a second.
Second,
And
okay.
it was handled at that time, so there was no need to come back to the commission for a second time.
All right,
I
thank
felt
you.
like it had been addressed at the Value Adjustment Board. Mr. Lible?
Have none.
Okay, and I have none at this time. Okay, that actually moves us to Mr. Suggs.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Very limited comments this morning, really just one. You know, we have our 5:05 scheduled budget presentation on September 10th. We've also gone through and met with the commissioners at a workshop on the purchasing policy ordinance that we'll be bringing as well. We've been requested to hold a night meeting to discuss that, and I can't think of a better time than the September 10th. We've already got a 5:05 scheduled, so I'd like to go ahead and get consensus from the board this morning to advertise, do the ordinance the same evening as the first reading of the budget on September 10th.
I'm good with that.
That's good.
Okay, yeah.
All right, then we will go ahead and advertise the purchasing policy ordinance for September 10th, the evening of.
So basically on September 10th, we won't have a day meeting, we'll just have a night meeting.
You'll have the original, or the actual Board of County Commissioners meeting will be the next day, Tuesday morning, September 11th. There was a conflict with budget hearing dates with, I believe, the school board, and so we moved ours to Monday night at 5:05.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Is that it?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Manning.
Just let you all know that obviously with the election coming up, I'm pretty busy with canvassing board. Mr. Goddard will be joining me. We've got canvassing board this afternoon and also this evening. Expect that'll probably go pretty late. We've got some more later this week and next week. So, and I just want to wish everybody that's running in the election good luck.
All right, Mr. Lible.
All right, same thing, I can't wait till tonight's over. I'm a horse waiting in the starting block.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But no, on a serious note, I'd like to wish everybody a safe Memorial Day weekend coming up, and, I'm sorry, Labor Day weekend. And just to reflect on Senator John McCain and his sacrifices to this country. That's right. In our time period, in this great country, I can't think of a better patriot. The guy really sacrificed, and just viewing everything on TV for the last couple days, I learned so much about this man. I can't help but to just feel this way, and I encourage everybody to think about what he really stood for. He loved this country, and that's it.
Thank you. Mr. Pickens.
Yeah, just want to wish everybody, like Commissioner Lible did, a safe and enjoyable Labor Day weekend. And also keep your families of the victims in Jacksonville, of that tragic incident that happened this past weekend. It's just terrible that things like that go on in our state, in our country. And I also want to thank Press Tompkins, Public Works Director, and County Administrator Suggs. Last Wednesday, we met with a group from River Park East Homeowners Association, and we had a meeting there at 6 o'clock and lasted about an hour and 15 minutes. So we talked to them, answered questions, listened to their concerns about what we were talking about with Public Works today, drainage issues, roads, maintenance, and things like that. And I think it was a very productive meeting, and I just want to thank Press Tompkins and Terry Suggs for attending that meeting after hours. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Harvey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Do want to say to the public that's watching us today, just because a commissioner did not pull an item off the consent agenda didn't mean that we didn't study these items. We have had projects out there in the air for a long time, and they're starting to come in for a landing. And this commission, these 5 men that I serve with, or 4 men that I serve with, are just top-notch, and they've done a remarkable job with our staff going through these projects. So hats off to them and the work that they've done. I also want to remind you of a great gentleman from West Putnam who passed away, Mr. Richard Rich. He was in our Rotary Club. He was a founding member of our Rotary Club and taught school here in Putnam County and was administrator here. And just a wonderful man. If you ever had a chance to know Mr. Rich, he always had a joke ready to go and always had a kind word too, even though in tight situations he would always find something positive to say. And I always thought, reflecting on his life in the past few days, that I could live my life a little bit like that, where instead of a harsh word, a more positive word would come out. Today also is Election Day. A lot of us have worked very hard, and Commissioner Lible, I know you're a horse in the stall ready to go. Your time will come in just a few hours. But I do want to say that Commissioner Turner has represented himself well and throughout this county, and I just really look forward to tonight and the work that's been done, and listening to the citizens out there at these forums and shaking hands alongside the road. And people are generally concerned, but there's a positive attitude that's happening in Putnam County, moving this county forward, and that's the message we're bringing to the people. And I want to thank everybody who is out there running for that debate and that conversation. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Turner. Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, I wanted to take this opportunity today to make the comment that I'm proud to be a member of this board. I'm proud for what we have accomplished in the last 11 months. I think it's been really well. Now, I'll still be here until at least November, so that'd be fine, but I wanted to say that today. I'm proud of every member here. I believe it's in their heart to do what's best for Putnam County, and that's what matters. So also, I'd like to say that we had a discussion today on the mowing, and but the people of Putnam County, I had a lady tell me the other day that when I tried to explain to her that we're trying to get there as quickly as we can, and that we have issues that aren't more important but are more pressing perhaps than her issue was, and she hit the nail on the head. She said, I don't really care about all their issues, I care about mine. So unfortunately, that's the way it is, and everybody wants their road fixed first, or their ditch fixed first, or their culvert, or what a drainage, or whatever the case may be, and I totally understand, I really do. But I'm going to plead with the public at this time for just a little bit of patience. What Press said earlier, or Mr. Tompkins said earlier, is no joke. Somebody told me the other day, we've had over 100 inches of rain this year, and that's the most we've had since the 1920s in one calendar year. So it is real. I know that everybody wants their stuff fixed. I realize what they're wanting, and we'll get there. We'll get through the problems we're having with short crews. We'll get through the equipment problem. We'll get through every one of those problems, but we just need a little patience, and we'll get there. Especially with us looking at this new mowing thing and perhaps being able to send some of it out on a continuing contract or something, and to help for a short term. And for the third time, I want to say, please return your phone calls. I know that it's almost impossible. I know that when you're getting 100 calls a day, it's almost impossible. If we need to get somebody to help return the phone calls, even if you could just call up and say, I've gotten your phone call. I mean, I hear it multiple times every week, and I know how busy you guys are. I'm talking about the different departments and what have you. But please, just call them back and say, we got your call. I know that some of them are going to be, combative, but still, we need to, one of the things that makes me the proudest of being around here is the difference in what it is from September last year until almost September of this year. The environment for customer service has changed around here. It's better. I'm telling you. It may not seem like it on some days, because everybody is so busy that they can't quite get there that day, but they want to. I've seen it. I've seen it in the people. I've seen it in everybody. They want to do better with customer service. That I appreciate. But I'd just like to bring that up, and I'll try not to bring it up again, but please, just at least call them back and say, we got your call, thank you for calling, or something. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
No problem. And I'm going to lead in on that one because they're Public Works, they actually lost their phone service for a little while, and I don't know about all of you, but I was made aware of it, which made it nice because they were calling me, they can't get through to Public Works. And so it was good that we at least knew and we could answer it. And I want to encourage anybody that's paying attention out here, send us an email. If you have a problem with a ditch, especially a ditch, drainage, road problem, don't hesitate to send an email and we'll get back to you as quickly as we can. Because if we don't know about it, we cannot fix it. It's just there's a lot of area out there. We just don't know about everything that's going on. And I want to encourage people to take the time to ride around. I've had the opportunity to go out and look at roads that were in bad condition, and a few days later the roads are in passable. I didn't say great, passable condition. They're moving mud and it's tough. But one thing my wife and I enjoy doing is we call it our picnic. We'll ride out to the forest, or we'll ride out somewhere, we'll pick up something to eat, and we'll just sit. And it was enjoyable. We went down to the riverfront and just to eat our dinner that evening. And it was enjoyable. There were quite a few families sitting there doing the same thing, enjoying the riverfront. And we have such a beautiful river. It doesn't get utilized as much as it should. But if people would take the time to go around here, we have the most beautiful county in Florida. Let's enjoy it. With that, that's the end of our meeting. Thanks.